Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here for checking out the series. Of course, you know what to do. If you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I am so excited. Vernon Reid, Living Colour, is here. Hello.
Hi there. Good morning.
Good morning. I am excited. I've been such a big fan follower for a very long time. I was thinking back. I know a lot of people's introduction to the band came with in the '80s with Cult of Personality. I think mine was just a couple years later with do you remember this? There was a compilation. It came out from Taco Bell called Do Something. It was a Do Something
Oh,
organization, and you guys had Leave It
wow.
Alone on there.
Wow. Taco Bell compilations. Good God.
That was in the '90s when that's something that you could do, a Taco Bell
Yeah, yeah,
compilation.
yeah. There were all kind of tie-ins at that time. Yep.
Yeah. You guys had Leave It Alone on there, and a song that just to this day blows my mind. And I've been such a big fan and follower ever since that. But you're back, not with new music on that side of things, but with MC5. You've joined to do a guest spot on this the final MC5 record, Heavy Lifting,
Yeah.
and this powerful song on there, Can't Be Found. Well, I should start. What's your relationship to Wayne and the band?
I've known Wayne for a few years, for a number of years. I mean, he was one of the veteran rockers that really accepted Living Color and sort of embraced that we when we arrived, and we also are mutual friends with Tom Morello, and we Tom Morello had this kind of guitar camp where he just had a wide range of instructors, including John Five and Betancourt, and Wayne and I we gave classes, and it was pretty fun. And over the years, I had interesting just conversations with Wayne, because one of Wayne's concerns was criminal justice and the way, the conditions under which people are held, and also talking about root causes, about violence, and how people get channeled into violence, and he was really all about that. And so we had many just kind of convos with him, about I think we both were fans of the criminologist, Lonnie Athens, and talking about violentization, the process by which people become violent. So he was a thinker about these things, and obviously he's a pioneering guitarist and a pioneering rock figure. But he's a lovely person to know.
Yeah, I got fortunate to have him on this series this one time after his biography came out, which I probably actually have below me if I'm trying to figure that out. And just to talk to him about that, of course, his time in jail and how that affected his life, and of course, he was thinking about that before he ever went to jail, of course, but really, especially afterwards, how that affected his life and his activism and his music and how you can hear that. I mean, I don't mean to sound corny when I say it, but you can hear that through the fury of his guitar, all throughout
Yeah,
his career.
absolutely,
You know what what,
absolutely.
what he was doing, and just I don't know, man. His praises haven't been sung enough, and I'm so happy that this record was
Yeah,
able to be made before he passed away.
yeah, absolutely. It's very sad that he's not here. Um, I mean, a lot of his guitar was fueled by the rage at injustice,
Mm.
and unfairness. He was a person that didn't like that, you know, and so it was an honor to be. He made the request. We've been talking about. He was like working on different projects, and then timings weren't always conducive, and then he mentioned this thing, and then Bob Ezrin, was producing it, and I was like, man, let's do it, and I'm happy to be a participant with so many other, wonderful musicians. And I love the song, Can't Be Found.
Yeah. So what was is that how did that one actually happen? Is that one that they send to you? Is that one you get to pick?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, they sent it to me. They said, I mean, it was like this. I've got the. He was kind of like, I've got the song for you to play on, and I was like, okay. And then I heard it. I really, unfortunately, when it was sent to me, it's like, okay. I hope this is not. And it was great, And so it was a great fit.
mhm. So what happens then? I mean, when you have an assignment like that, right? You got to understand the assignment. Like they're looking for the Vernon Reid sound, but how much do you think of, when Wayne was talking about the album before he passed, he was like, this is picking up where we left off at High Times. Like, do you consider that when you're thinking about what you're going to lay down?
Well, I mean, in a certain way, it's a balance between what the song is saying, what the MC5 represent, filtered through the song that it is, and then what's my contribution going to be? And his thing was, man, do you? I mean, the conversation that I had with him and Bob was, man, no, man, do what you hear, do what you feel, and just kind of went in a certain way. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to play retro, or I'm going to play like I'm going to play a kind of fuzz tone solo from the 70s, or you know what I mean? It
Mhm.
wasn't like that. It was kind of like, yo, man, do what you hear. And I just kind of I did a couple of passes. I think they took like one of the earliest passes. I gave them a couple passes, and uh and I was really happy with the way they fit it in.
And not always the case. The early passes is what I mean. It seems like that's the story more than not. Like I did Tid Tanks. We took the first one. We took the second one. Like
Yeah,
something to that beauty.
yeah, it's so funny because it's like you could kind of go, well, I'm just gonna send the take that I like. I let them deal with it. But with respect, it's always good to have to give options.
Mhm.
And I kind of do some of this kind of high octave kind of overtone madness, and they kind of went for it as opposed to just straight, kind of more normal guitar, and I did a little bit of this kind of tapping thing, and they dug it. They dug what it did in the song, and I'm just happy with it that they dug that.
Yeah, and it does. It just sits in there beautifully. It picks it up at the right moment, but it does fit in like with whatever Wayne had in mind with this record, and whether or not you pick it up after High Times. I mean, sometimes it's a marketing line too, but it's a good marketing line. Don't get me wrong, but just showing how he was still able to tap into that. Like I was thinking about the MC5 and I'd like to know, like, if you even remember, like, what you heard in the bands when you first heard them, because even considering how they sounded the way they did when, in the late 60s, in this silo of Detroit, we get the Stooges there too. And it's sort of mind-blowing that that sound even
Mhm.
existed at that little point in time, at least to me, you know.
Well, it's sort of, I mean, in a way, they were an extension of the idea of music being ritualistic and experiential. In a or trans, the idea of music. I mean, there was a kind of extent feeling that music could be transformative. Like you could transform the evening or transform the audience, and this was extended over jazz of a certain period, rock of a certain period. The idea, I mean, in fact, Jimi Hendrix's first band was called The Experience. The idea that we're going to enter into this space, and you're not going to be the same. We're None of us are going to be the same by the final chord. And they were very much part of this kind of cathartic Dionysian type of thing, but with a political edge to it. But there was something that was, they were an outgrowth, and they pointed to something else, but they were an outgrowth of a thing that was really present in psychedelia, It was certainly present in the Miles Davis things that he was doing. It was clearly present in Hendrix. It was present with the Dead. It was present with it was present with Soul Sacrifice, Santana. That this whole idea that we're going to change these circumstances, us together, brothers and sisters, we're going to change the circumstances, and they believed it, and you hear it in the kerrang of the guitars and the crash of the drums. They did that thing, and as opposed to, there's a different kind of ritual that rock became. The kind of, we're going to land the plane safely.
Right.
And there was no guarantee. They offered no guarantees of that, and that's what made them so immediate and so visceral.
I like the way you put that, because it actually did feel dangerous. And that can be a cliche sometimes when we talk about, but because sometimes you want it to feel dangerous, but you want it, so you're forcing it, but it felt dangerous. It felt like, I called some bands, I didn't make up the phrase, but the secret, they were a secret handshake for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If you found somebody else that knew the MC5, like, you found someone that you could relate to, in that secret handshake sort of way. But that's it. I mean, that danger that they had, that's not, a lot of folks were wearing the politics on their sleeve around that time too. And they certainly did that, but the way they did it, it just felt like it was something even more,
Yeah.
than the typical late 60s hippie fair or whatever it was.
Well, also, I mean, the age of the audience, of the kind of time that it was, the fact that there was a mainstream to react against,
Mhm.
that was also a part of the collapsing of the bifurcation of mainstream with underground. That's a part of the thing that's happened, it's a process over time. And I mean, it started out with the singer maybe would tear her shirt off, and people in the audience would tear their shirts off. And then it became, the dude tears his shirt off, and the audience is staring at the guy tearing his shirt off.
Right.
you know, You're like, man, this shirt is expensive. I'm wearing. I'm not tearing my shirt off. You know, and then and it goes on from there. If you're gonna, there was a time if the singer rolled around in broken glass, then half the audience would do it too, and that it's just like people started going, geez, I got to go to work on Monday morning. How am I going to explain the scars?
Is that a rock show? I mean, you all picked up that mantle. I mean, whether or not it was directly passed to you, whatever, but Living Color, I mean, everything that we're talking about here, I think I could say the same thing about what you all were doing once you took over. And in fact, we talk about that danger even in just the music. I was listening to the Form Funky Freqs that
Oh, wow.
that you
Oh
just
yeah,
put
all
out.
improvised. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because talk about, the essence of danger. I love that, listening to people who are really good at that style, who can pull it off. Because when you've got the style of, I'm guessing that's improv. Um,
Yeah.
what you guys are doing, and the art of not overthinking it. I mean, it's so everything could just dissolve. It could break right then,
Yeah.
and yet somehow you all survive to the end of it.
Well, it's weird. I'm in a way. I mean, it's very strange when I think about it from my perspective. I love pop music. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I love pop music, and I couldn't tell you why I suddenly added the avant-garde to my aesthetic. Like I liked Motown and I like the Beatles. You know what I mean? And then suddenly, and maybe it was hearing Family Affair, maybe it was hearing Coltrane, my favorite things. Like I had these audio experiences, hearing Machine Gun, hearing Broadway Blues, Ornette Coleman. Like it's sort of seeing Sun Ra, and it, somehow I gradually, my hearing and what attracted me in music became weirdly wider
Mhm.
and included, because Hendrix, he dissolved the boundary between melody and noise. you know. And he did it, just by turning the volume of his guitar up or turning it down, and things like that. So, one part of me, I love like songcraft. I mean, I think Hal David is like one of the greatest lyricists of all time. But then at the same time, I love Albert Ayler
Mm.
and the edges and the people that went out to the edge, and some that didn't quite return. And there's something about that, and the tension between those two things are part of what animates me.
Yeah, I think I had that similar story. My entry into that world was Miles at the Fillmore. I don't remember if it was
Oh
East or
my
West,
God.
but
Yeah, right. Yeah.
because those were like that was the free form, that was cut up tapes on top of it, and that,
Oh man, yeah.
yeah, that led to, I mean, that led to Sonic
Bill
Youth and
Graham, I
everything.
mean, because the thing is, Bill Graham as an impresario,
Yeah,
right? As a presenter of the experience, he had a genius for exposing people to things that they may not understand or they may not initially like. Like he had Miles Davis and the Birds on the same bill. I
hmm,
mean, he shifted a whole generation's hearing in that way and taking that risk and just having the faith, oh, they'll get it, they'll be fine.
yeah,
And that I think about Hilly Crystal, the Bills
mhm,
at CBGB's, I those people that put on a show and are able to put together all of the elements. It's kind of like almost like DJs, but with living people,
right, right,
mixing it and and actually allowing for the collisions to happen. The idea of American music is not created simply by agreement. It is forged out of people that shouldn't have been across the tracks, that went across the tracks. Like James Brown had said, the long haired hippies and the Afro blacks all get together across the tracks and they party.
right. Yeah. Thank goodness for them all too. I mean,
Oh,
you know, because they were, you were talking about landing the plane safely a minute ago with rock. I mean, like, it wasn't written yet, to quote Joe Strummer,
yeah, and yeah, the future is unwritten is a great quote. Absolutely.
yeah.
That's the thing. Like being in our silos, our kind of segregated silos of safety, our lives are actually the poor for it. Like I'll give you a quick culinary example. The first time I had a falafel, I had never tasted chickpeas before, fried chickpeas.
Mhm.
I damn near spit it out. I didn't dig it. It was so the mystery to me is what made me go after my first kind of shocking experience. What made me go to Mamoun's and order that second falafel?
Mhm. And
Yeah,
what do you think that was? Just to spell it out here.
I guess my palate was assaulted, and then my taste was altered, and then I became intrigued
Mhm.
to just check. Did I okay? Was that as bad as I thought? And then I had my second falafel, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I do want to quickly ask you about the Land of Living Colour too. I know you guys are touring. It's been what, 7 years or so since that last record, but this, I don't know how you look at it. Is this the 40th anniversary year?
This is
Uh,
yeah, 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 1984. We've been doing off and on. We've been doing like a year with the band Extreme as a special guest, touring with them, doing some headlining shows. About to go to Canada, the Pacific Northwest, some dates in the Midwest in September. We started initial recordings for a new record, and that's going to continue the recording process with that. And it's been fun. I mean, we've entered into a realm with each other of just I wouldn't say it's too easy to say comfort, but we're as a group we're willing to get out of the way of the thing we collectively create,
mm,
and that thing still means something to each of us, and I'm really grateful for that because I think there are a lot of bands they're kind of done with each other. They're no longer fans of each other. It's a job that they do, and they're doing nobody any favors. And people see it, right?
Mhm.
And gigs can be a kind of, because rock and roll music is not at the center of everything as it was.
Mhm.
And the younger bands and younger audiences are having their experiences with each other. I'm always gratified when I see younger people in the audience, and I'm always gratified when particularly myself, when I'm not in the way, of the thing, and we connect what it is that we're saying. Because what we're talking about is freedom for everyone. That's what we've always been talking about. It's not. It's like, I think it's, four black guys playing rock. Well, I never accepted the premise that rock was anything other than black music. That expanded out to everyone.
Sure.
So I was not making up. It was it never, because for me, in my head, I have an alternate history of rock and roll, right? Like the Isley Brothers are recognized as the greatest American rock and roll band in my head, because no band has the longevity. Ernie Isley would have gotten his guitar magazine covers in the 70s. You know what I mean? War would be recognized after Eric Burden. War would be recognized as a great alternative rock and roll band. They are nothing else but an alternative rock band that's also funky, that brings together Latin and black idioms. Funkadelic would be recognized as one of the great, post psychedelic. So in my head, these things, Edwin Bird's song Supernatural, which was produced by Eddie Kramer, which introduced Ronnie Drayton, who were doing a tribute to him at Sony Music Hall in New York on August 27th, with a bunch of other artists like 24/7 Spies. All of these things, for me, and it includes Led Zeppelin and everything else, but there's a way that that other thing has been shut out. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's been closed off. A band like Automatic Man doesn't get any respect. Fishbone like restarted the ska punk as a thing. There's no doubt without Fishbone.
Mhm.
Like Jane's Addiction had one of their first rehearsals in like Norwood Fisher's house, right? So
Right.
there's a whole history that connects all that. The Bad Brains are given their due. You know what I mean? Influenced as much by fusion as they're influenced by punk. So that's the ground. That's the basis for where my head is in terms of. It is about freedom for all.
I would read that book in a heartbeat, watch that documentary in a heartbeat. All those bands, and I just seen Fishbone in the last year. We just had War over here at
Right.
WFPK, where I'm also based. We play Funkadelic, and of course we play tons of Living Color as well. So
Wow.
um, I'm so happy that you guys are still doing what you do.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
And I can't wait to hear the new record. In the meantime, of course, congrats again on being part of this final MC5 record with Heavy
It's a
Lifting.
great honor.
Yeah.
It's a great honor. And Wayne Kramer was he was a mensch. He was all the things. He stood for what he believed. I think he helped a lot of people. And he helped people that other people, wrote off.
Mm.
And so I have love and respect, and especially, shout out to Margaret, who's dealing with organizing all of this and in the midst of dealing with her grief. So yeah, so it's an honor for real.
Right on. But Vernon, it's such a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Not a problem. We should do it again sometime.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime. And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.